On this episode, we talk with Coach Adam Rogers on how to navigate your training during the Open and crush your Open attempts. We know the Open can be chaotic, so let us help you navigate the Open. We are going to structure your training around those Open attempts, and we also will deliver to you a competitor's manual so you can come up with better pacing strategies for those workouts. And we'll also give you weekly pacing plans, tips, and strategies once the workouts are released. If you want to learn more, go to trainingthinktank.com. All right, we have Adam back on. Last time, we were talking about how to navigate your Open prep. Like, what are the things that the athlete should be thinking about to make sure that they're prepared well for both the Open and quarterfinals? And some of those things, I think the biggest one is not being ready for the intensity. So this time of year, making sure that you're gearing yourself up for kind of the chaos, the intensity, the pressure that comes with those Open style or quarterfinal style workouts.
Yeah, I mean, they just hit different. It's always crazy to see because it's not like you're not doing CrossFit. Like, you're doing CrossFit all year long, but then you get into the first week of the Open and everybody just has this shocked look on their face like, where the hell did that come from? It's a different kind of intensity when it's like on the line and it matters and there's a global leaderboard and there's a judge and there's people next to you. Like, it's just different. Yeah. And so I think that one ahead of time was trying to get people to start getting into that rhythm and routine of touching that kind of intensity and feeling what that feels like so it's not a shock to your system.
Right. And some of those other things were like practicing being judged, setting up your camera, getting the right equipment set up the way that you'd want it to, just so you're actually practicing the sport. Yeah. And now, as we get closer to the Open, we're only a few weeks away, we want to talk about, well, how do you navigate the actual Open week? And this probably matters more for the athlete that is on that bubble, right? They're trying to get into quarterfinals, but I still think that the higher level athlete can't just pass the Open by. They can't just think about it as like, I'm just going to go through the motions here and we'll talk about this, but you need to be focused on high quality training so you're ready for quarterfinals while still maximizing your score in the Open. Yeah,
it's interesting to think about. I mean, when we think about the spectrum of athletes, we go all the way from like beginner/scaled athletes all the way up to like elite games level athletes. The changes that they make in their training week are probably minimal to none, right? When the Open happens, like they probably don't need to adjust too much around the actual like structure of their week. It's these people in the middle ground that actually have to think about, all right, what do I want this week to look like to make sure I get the most out of my first attempt? Am I possibly going to have to do a second attempt? How do I have to do the middle ground in between those attempts to make sure I'm fresh to go? What do I do after my second attempt as I'm leading into week 2 to make sure that I'm fresh and ready and recovering? So those kinds of things, I think they're very important for a certain subset of those athletes, which are probably like, when you look at the bell curve, it's most people in the sport need to be making the most of that. But either end of the spectrum, it's really just like, this is going to be a piece of your training week that you should still give as much focus and intent and be as present as possible to make sure that you're getting better for having gone through the attempt. But I think the actual structure of the training week, which is what we'll talk about, it needs to change a little bit more for the people who have more on the line at that point in the season.
For sure. And that, again, to your point, there are a lot of people that they do have a lot on the line because people reach out to us all the time for one-on-one coaching or in our online programs that they're like, hey, I was a couple spots out of quarterfinals last year, and that's my goal this year. Yeah. And so they've been fighting all year to do that, and now's the time where it's like we need to make sure that we're optimizing everything in the week so that you can give your best effort on the day that you test the Open. And if you do it again, then it matters probably even more how you recover and then how you maximize that next attempt. So what are some of the main problems that we see? I think the first one for me is new people to the sport. They love going hard all the time, and there's a good thing to that. You need to do that every once in a while. Yeah. But during an Open week, there are many people that overtrain. Like, they're training hard on Wednesday. Maybe they get nervous. So they're like, I'm going to go do a hard erg workout on Thursday when the workout comes out. And then they try to test it on Friday and their body's just beat up for the attempt.
Yeah. Make sure you're fresh. Make sure you're fresh for your first attempt so you can make the most out of that attempt. I think, like you said, there's always going to be a tendency when the season comes that people are going to be pulled into this temptation of getting overexcited, of wanting to do too much, of actually doing too much, and then not being fresh for the actual score that matters in your week. So when you think about the training week, we still want to make sure that those days before you're touching the sport still, but they have to be controlled doses of intensity. So if it comes out on Thursday night, you know that you're going to do something on Friday. Your Wednesday session should be stimulative in the sense that you're doing something at intensity, but it has to be controlled intensity. We're talking like 3 to 5 minutes of a short burst of intensity, maybe a quick touch on percentage weightlifting, some movement and mobility work, and then you're out the door. You do not want to be walking out of that session hands on the knees, sweating, bleeding, puking, that is not going to set you up for success on Friday. But it's what people are used to throughout the course of the training season. Like if you don't walk out the door completely spent, you feel like you left something on the table. Just know where the game is, know where the points are going to come. They're coming on Friday. Make sure that your Wednesday session is going to set you up for success when you walk back into the gym on Friday and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So the thing that Kyle always taught me, Kyle Ruth, is Wednesday, it's his stinger session, right? Like you come in, you do something short and sharp and sweet, and you like get the gears moving, but then you're out the door.
I know. And I love it. I feel like I'm always more primed when I do that. So it's still like you're getting a touch of intensity. You're going really fast. You still are sweating. You're breathing hard. But it's not to the point where you walk in on Friday and you're like, man, my biceps are still sore. My chest is sore from the burpees. We don't want that, because then that's going to slow down your attempt when you do the open workout.
Yeah. Unless you're like me and you want an excuse to go slower on the Friday. Like, oh man, I shouldn't have done all those deadlifts on Wednesday. I guess I got 140
deadlifts at 255 pounds. The other one that I've seen, especially with like younger athletes or those that just are really excited, it's their first or second open, is they see the workout come out on Thursday. And I've done this before, by the way. And you're like, oh, I really like this one. And then you just go out on the floor and you do it, right? Like, or you go to your gym and you're like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do the workout today. And while that may work for some people, the tendency there is that you're just going out without a plan. And even if you come up with one in your head, it's better if you can see some scores, if you can watch a couple demos. And there are so many good resources out there now. Like if you just go on YouTube, there are so many tips, videos, warm-ups, and cool-down options that you can at least optimize, again, and you're going to hear me say that a lot, your attempt on the first go-around.
Yeah, I think there's more people who try and have watch parties around the announcements now, which means you're probably going to be at the gym when you do that, which can be a good and a bad thing. If it's a good thing because maybe you can set up the floor plan, think about how you want to work your transitions. What's the optimal pacing strategy going to look like if you just do a round? But then people get warmed up and like, I feel pretty good. I want to go right now. And they don't have the information that could help them, that could benefit them. What are some good scores? What are some good things to watch some demo athletes do? Not just the games level athletes that are going to be on the announcement.
Anything come to mind from the past where it was like, it really changed after watching more people go?
Well, I mean, just the wall walk one in general. Like when the wall walks first came out, you could watch them do it on the screen, but then it took us a couple of days of watching multiple attempts to be like, oh, 4 in, 3 out, like 4 steps into the wall, 3 steps out. That's a really, really good strategy. And so then we get on the phone with our one-on-one clients, and then we do video analysis like, hey, try this on Saturday before you redo on Monday, which if we had done that before, or like even if like this was a movement that we had just needed a little bit more eyes on to see a little bit more volume, we could have figured that out. So a new workout or a new movement that comes out, take the time, work your way through it, watch a lot of people do it before you actually get in for a score that matters to you. Make sure that you have as much information as possible.
Yeah, the new movement is definitely a big one. Like if a new movement comes out this year, which I assume we may see one now that kettlebells are on the list, whether we see it in the open or not, that is important to be able to watch people do it and practice yourself. Just again, so that you are making sure that you're like leaving no stone unturned before you do that attempt. And I think the other thing is for those that are maybe that 10 to 12% range, right? They're on the bubble. You watch a games athlete go, your pacing strategy is totally different. So even if you watch that demo, like the CrossFit Games, they put a demo out and it's, Medeiros and Tia Toomey, you're not going to do what they do. So you need to watch your peers go, or at least get some score ideas so that you know what that 10% cut line is and then how to pace based off of that.
Not only are you not going to do what they're going to do, it's probably going to be counterproductive to just watch them, because you're like, oh, they did that round in a minute when my first round is going to take 1:15 and I'm going to be completely smoked because I didn't know I had 10 more minutes of work to do. So watching them, in a sense, depending on what kind of athlete you are, could be kind of counterproductive because you're going to have a false sense of security with the pacings that they're holding.
Yeah.
Obviously, if a new movement comes out, you'll learn something. Can you think of any, put y'all on the spot, can you think of any where it was just a typical CrossFit workout, no new movements, where watching it for a day or two like really made the difference?
I think what you can come up with a little bit more is like Brandon always talks about separation value. And so different movement combinations, like the different separation value, like the different main separator inside of the workout, it's going to change depending on time domains, rep schemes, and even the movements that are actually inside of there. So watching people do it, you can decide like, all right, is the true separation value here the pace on the rower? Probably not. There's 15 calories in the row per round. Is the true separation value here pace on my burpees? Yeah, that's it. That's the one right there. I watch a lot of people do this. The people that were holding 3 seconds per rep on the burpees, they were beating the people that were holding 1,300 calories per hour on the rower because their burpee pace slowed down.
Yeah.
So learning a little bit more about separation value by watching more people of your peer group actually go, I think there's a ton of value in that.
Yeah, I fully agree. I don't know if I can pick a workout. I was thinking it still comes down to me watching the elites go is just like, it's a mind trip because I actually thought back to when they announced 16.2, which became 19.2, and it was toe to bar, double under, and then the heavy squat cleans, right? And it was like, I can't remember who did it. Maybe it was BKG or someone. They did unbroken toes to bar every single round. It was like 25 toe to bar. And when you watch that, you're like, man, he's flying. And then people that maybe are at a lower level that still are decent at toes to bar, they started with 25 toe to bar, and your grip blows up. It's a trap. It is a trap. And so, maybe that's not a great example for, what you're asking, but I do think that is always the problem, is that we watch the best in the world go. And it would be like me watching Michael Jordan dunk a basketball or Steph Curry shoot a basketball, be like, oh, I can definitely figure that out. It's like, no, that's mastery. That, they're at the top level. And so you need to watch your peers. And you also, I just think it's worthwhile, even if you didn't watch a demo, to go and practice the movements a little bit. Even if it's something that you're familiar with, like the combo of the deadlift and the burpee last year was so potent. I don't think people realize that you're hinging on the burpee and then you're hinging again on the deadlift, and people's backs blew up. But if you just practice it a little bit, you could get a feel of like, ooh, I need to pace these deadlifts a little bit more than I thought otherwise. Yeah,
I think when it comes to trying to think about the structure of the training week, if you are going to be at a gym with a watch party and you see the movements announced, maybe you set up the stations, maybe you set up what the transitions are going to like, and maybe you do a round for time, because then it gives you that information. It lets you know what is a comfortable pace for me to be able to be, and then I can extrapolate that over the course of the workout, whether it's rounds for time or AMRAP 12 minutes, whatever it might be. I know what one round took me. I know what it felt like. And I know that that's probably a pace that I probably can't hold. So let me add 10% onto that. And then I've got a good sort of starting point, like a foundation for me to be able to create my pacing plan off of. Yeah. So I like that. Like if you have that flexibility in your week, instead of hopping right in first thing right away, not watching any other demos, go do a round. Go if it's a deadlift one, maybe go all the way up to 5-6 reps and then start coming back down and see what it feels like for that residual fatigue in your low back and what it's going to feel like when you get all the way up to the top end of that ladder.
Yeah, I fully agree. And that actually leads into, I think, another problem is that you do the workout, you go really hard, and if you go fast in an open workout, even if it's something that's simple, you're probably going to be sore. Like even if you're trained well, like the deadlift burpee is a perfect example of that. Everyone that did that workout was sore. I mean, that's just low backs, hamstrings, everything. It's really hard to be able to recover and then come back and do it again if you're an athlete that's on the bubble. But some athletes, that's just going to be required. Like you do it, it's not good enough, and your goal is you want to make the top 10%. You will have to retest on a Monday or Sunday, whenever you choose. But because of that, you need to have a good recovery strategy. Yeah. And most people don't. Like most people just do the workout, and they're like, if it's Friday Night Lights, they do the workout, they party with their friends, they go home, they go to sleep, and then they wake up the next day and they're just completely wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah. So the cool down strategy, I feel like, is as important as the warm up strategy. But like we talked about before, the weeks leading up to the open are the times to be putting these habits into place. So starting right now, even though we're thinking about the weeks during the open, starting right now, when you hit an intense workout, think about what your cool down strategy is going to look like and start thinking as if you had to do that same workout again in 3 days. What are the things that are going to set you up for success? If it's low back fatigue, what are the things I can do to try and decompress? If it's upper body fatigue, make sure I'm doing posterior shoulder accessory work to open up my pecs and open up my interior delts. But the cool down strategies, make sure that those are highlighted now and then work them into your weekly, daily routine when you actually get into the open. Because if you're on that bubble, you need to plan on having to have 2 spots inside of your week to be able to do that again.
Yeah. So Adam's talking about thinking forward as an athlete. And I think that is like the most valuable thing for athletes to start to kind of master their own thought process and figure out how to handle these things. But that's also what your coaches are for. Like you're running all our one-on-one coaches, and you help them with that process as they coach down with their athletes. We do that with our online program. But the other mistake that people make is not thinking forward in the open. They're not thinking about like what happens if I make quarterfinals. Yeah. Should you be practicing those movements? Like what happens if rope climbs and GHDs come out in quarterfinals? But if you're not doing those things during the open, that also could be a trap.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you think that there's a chance that you're going to be able to advance into quarterfinals, you need to be touching some of those skill-based movements or some of those movements that just need to have continual volume resilience built in throughout the course of the week. And you need to make sure that they're planned accordingly throughout your week so that they're not taking away from the open, that you're getting enough touches on them so that your body's ready for it. You're not just jumping into the deep end come the end of February when it's like, oh, wait, the quarterfinals is going to be here in 2 weeks. I got all the GHDs, all the rope climbs, all the ring muscle ups, everything else that goes into it.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, so let's think about the training week. Okay, so the open comes out on Thursday night. Maybe that's a day that I set aside, go to my watch party, maybe do a round for time if it lines up with my schedule and I have the availability to do it. Friday, open workout. I'm going to warm up really well. I'm going to film myself do the workout. I'm going to have time afterwards to be able to cool down. Saturday is a great place to be able to put quarterfinal style movements. This is a great sort of placeholder where I can do maybe some strength touches, because we know during the open, for the most part, things don't get too heavy. It's usually lighter load. It's usually higher turnover. The pace is usually faster. The time windows are usually somewhere between 7 and 12 minutes. I need to be touching a heavier barbell maybe twice throughout the week. Saturday is a great place for that. We already know what movement pattern got fatigued on Friday. I can change this guy. So if we did a lot of wall balls on Friday night, I can do power snatches and push presses on Saturday. I can do some sort of hinging work there because I did so much squatting on Friday, but some sort of strength touch there makes a lot of sense. Then build in some volume touches through GHDs, rope climbs, heavier kettlebells, which they said aren't going to come out in the open, but they put on the equipment list for quarterfinals. Heavier dumbbells, same thing. Get a 70 in your hands because it feels different than a 50. And for girls, get the 50 instead of the 35. Just making sure that you're getting those touches there. If you think that Monday is going to be a redo, Tuesday is another great day where I can do movement mobility work, some machines, and then also some skill work. Set aside 20 minutes at the end to touch different variations of jump ropes, to start working with kettlebells and different movement patterns. I think that when I think about the training week, we can do Wednesday, sort of a stinger, get myself ready for the intensity that comes up, a little bit of pop. Thursday off, maybe a touch of a round. Friday, my open. Saturday can be a training day as long as it's planned accordingly after you see the Friday open. And that's what you guys do in Compete. You don't plan 3 weeks ahead of time. You don't write all of the training. You wait for the announcement. And then once the announcement comes out, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do on Friday. Here's what we're going to do on Saturday. Those who are going to do retest on Monday, this is what you'll do. If you're not retesting, here's how we're going to try and make the most out of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday without fatiguing leading into Friday. That's the best part about that program is it flexes from week to week and then it changes. And as the movement sort of library whittles down by the end, we have a really good idea about what we can do for the remainder of the week.
Yeah.
Real quick, before you jump in, so you just laid out the kind of how we optimize the week. What do you think the most, like when you, so I know our athletes aren't doing that, but when you get a new athlete or you see the lay CrossFit person out there, what do you think they're setting up their week like? Like if they don't know any better, what is the average week?
If they don't know any better, they're probably not setting up their week. They're probably just thinking, when am I going to do the open workout? And then,
so what do you think let's just hypothesize here. What do you think their average, like go through it Monday? What do you think they're doing?
So let's start on Thursday because the open probably just got released. They might do the open workout Thursday night. They maybe got overexcited. They're probably going to do it on Friday, hopefully, because they'll do Friday night lights or something else. Saturday, they're going to go into the gym and they're going to be sore. I've seen people get sucked into a redo on Saturday the day after they do it on Friday. If you don't have a plan in place, it's much more likely that you're going to get pulled into a situation that you don't want to be in, which could be doing a redo before your body is ready and before you've had a chance to really like redo a strategy analysis on what went wrong and what went right on the first one.
Maybe get sucked into another hard workout
that's the other thing is where it's going to go. If you don't have a structure in place for what your day after is going to look like, maybe a redo, maybe something that's harder than it should have been, because then you're taking away from what the potential quality could have been on Monday. So having just a plan in place can protect you from some of those common pitfalls, which would be either too much intensity or a redo before you were really ready for it.
Keep it rolling, because I'm more curious what you think they do during that part where we're talking about like the training week.
Well, but before we get there, I think the other tendency is when you do a hard workout, just like for fun on Saturday because you're used to that. So you do your open attempt on Friday. You're like, I'm going to do a re-attempt on, let's say, Monday, but I still want to go hard on Saturday. So I feel like I'm staying fit. Then they may miss out on all of those quarterfinal touches that Adam was just talking about. Like you need to have time to still think about structured training, both with strength progressions and with all the skill progressions. And I mean, there are so many options that could come out. You know, we already talked about the GHDs, rope climbs, could be legless rope climbs, could be some other a bar pullover, all these kettlebell variations. If you don't have time set aside that is a little bit lower intensity where it's skill-based, skill acquisition focused, it's going to be really hard to be good at those come quarterfinals.
Yeah. Where else were you pushing there?
All right, so you said Saturday they might do that. So then keep that average person's week going. Your hypothesis on what you think they're doing.
I mean, average person's week, if I didn't have a structure going into it, I hit the open hard on Friday, I get suckered into a bro session on Saturday where I'm probably doing too much volume or intensity, then really what I should be doing at that point in the season, walk into Monday, I see the score on on the leaderboard being way lower than I thought it was going to be. I hit my redo or maybe another redo on that day, which means that I am wrecked come Tuesday. I might not even go into the gym on Tuesday because I'm so wrecked, which means I missed another day of skill work, another day of recovery work. Wednesday, I'm not going to get my pop of intensity because I don't have any sort of energy or effort to be able to give, which means my effort coming into Thursday and Friday is also going to be sapped because I didn't sort of prime myself for the next week.
So you're going into week 2 and you feel like
you're
trash
going
already.
into week 2 because week 1 you just dug yourself a hole that you never gave yourself a chance to get out of. So just having some structure to know where are the ebbs and flows of intensity going to come from. If I peak too early in the course of that week, I have nothing left to give at the end, which means I've got to ramp back up and I don't have a chance to get back up to that point on Friday.
Yeah. A couple other things that I think happen. You talked about the person that may not go into the gym on Tuesday, which is fair. I think there are a lot of those people. There are also those people that they are like, I'm not going to do a hard CrossFit workout, but I still want to breathe. So I'll do a hard erg workout instead. And they're still like, they're just absolutely wrecked metabolically going into the next day. So Wednesday still sucks again, and then Thursday is bad, and Friday you're still sore.
There should be days over the course of the training week where your quality is high. That should be the focus, all right? Yeah. So we know, like, say that you're going to redo every single week. There's 3 weeks. You're going to redo week 1, week 2, week 3, Friday and Monday. Those are our 2 intense days, and that's really all it should be. Wednesday is going to be a touch of intensity, but I'm not going into that with the focus of beating myself down. I'm walking into that session with, like, I'm going to prime myself for Friday. That's a very different focus. And then I've got Tuesdays and Saturdays as quality. If the quality is high on those days, I am setting myself up for success for the intense days, which are the focus, which are the priority of this course at this point in the season.
So what are those things? Like, what are the things that we can get out of the week? Like, let's just say, and I agree with you, Mondays, Fridays can be our intense days. You have those where you're still crushing it, so you're ready for quarterfinals and other intense workouts that may come out in the open. Yeah. But what are the other days for then? I know you said that it's more quality focused, but there are still things that you can do. It's not like you're just doing easy, Turkish get-ups and that's it.
Yeah, I think that there is going to be a subset of people who can't expect to keep training during the open. They just might not be able to. They don't have the ability to. But let's assume that that's not us. This is a person who they made it to quarterfinals the last 2 years. They have a pretty good chance that they're going to get through. They might need to redo one just in case, like something went wrong, they messed up a standard or something else. You can train with quality on Saturday and Tuesday if we have a plan in place for what it is we want to keep touches on. So one of it might be touches on the kinds of movements or equipment that we know are going to come out in quarterfinals. The other side of that might be 2 to 3 individual based priorities that we know that person is probably not going to touch during the open. Say that you have them on a squat snatch progression, or say that you have them on a ring muscle up progression, say that you have them on a rope climb progression. These are things that you can still hit controlled progressions, interval based format, skill based focus, percentage based lifting on those days and get quality training in. But the quality is the focus there. You're training that person. You're not testing on that day. You want them walking out of that day feeling like they got better at a certain skill or certain movement, maybe a % stronger on some of the movement-based progressions that you might be doing, but you're not trying to beat them down. So you can still do skill, you can still do strength, you can probably still do some breathing work as long as it's not excessive. Right. But you just have to have that plan in place to make sure that you're protecting them from digging in too deep at that point in the week.
Yeah, I love having strength progressions still in the program. It matters so much going into quarterfinals and just to keep people healthy too. But it is more focused on quality and not just overwhelming. You're not doing a hatch cycle through the open. Or at least most people wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an expectation that you're going to make quarterfinals, we know that they like to test barbell-based strength inside of quarterfinals. Right. So if you are not touching any sort of progressions for the 3 weeks of the open, you're probably doing yourself a big disservice there.
Yeah, I fully agree. So thinking about the way that we structure the week, we kind of laid that out. What about when you talk about those stinger sessions, like what does that look like? Because people still want that intensity, and I really love that. Yeah. What give us some examples, like maybe 2 or 3 examples of what you may put in on a Wednesday?
Yeah, so stinger session for me, it's a very short time duration. The turnover is very high. I'm trying to minimize the amount of eccentric muscle contractions that go into it because those tend to be the ones that make people the most sore, right? So I don't want to have a ton of wall balls. I don't want to have a ton of GHD sit-ups. I don't want to have a ton of even like chest to bar pull-ups where I'm having to control down through that extending of my elbow and my arm. I'm thinking things like burpees, power cleans, rowing, machines are a great thing to go in there. Body weight stuff where I'm not having that ton of eccentric volume. You can put skill-based stuff in there as long as the person is proficient enough to be able to push the intensity on it. But I like just couplets and triplets. All right, 2159, row cows, dumbbell squat snatches, something like that. Yeah. Burpees over the rower. Make it super easy. They should be able to touch intensity, get their heart rate up, and then walk away without having to put their hands on their knees for too long.
Right. I think anything that's going to not elicit a ton of soreness is probably a good starting point. So even if you're unsure as a coach, like how should I write this for an athlete, or if you're writing for yourself, that's probably a good starting point. And then you can continue to refine it down from there. But the biggest benefit is having someone in your corner to do that, which I think is just like, I mean, that's why people hire coaches. So you have an objective source as opposed to you trying to figure out all the things that you need to get better at as an athlete. It's just too hard. And I think about it like even for myself, like I know what's right and wrong in programming, but it's very easy to just go out to the gym and do what I enjoy. Yeah. Even if I was trying to do the open, I'd still want to do the things I enjoy, but that may not be what I need. So instead, even as a coach, I should hire someone like Adam to say, tell me what I need to do this week and let me listen to you so I can optimize my scores.
You say it all the time. It's the guardrails. It's the guardrails because we all know the pitfalls, and maybe the people new to the sport, they might not know it and they might not be aware of it. But what the coach does, or what an online training program does, is it provides guardrails to protect you from what we've experienced in the sport as these common pitfalls that people are more likely to fall into. All right, we need to protect you from eccentric volume on Wednesday, but we still want to touch intensity. On Saturday, we can't afford not to do strength work here, so we're going to pick out one or two based off of that variation, depending on whatever you did on Friday. We're going to pick one and we're going to go with it. We're going to touch some skill on quarterfinals, and then we're going to rest Saturday night into Sunday, potential redo on Monday. Like, we know what the common pitfalls are. Most everybody does. Having the accountability of somebody saying, don't do that, do this, is so much clearer than just, I'll be okay. I'm just going to go through it and sort of wing it.
Yeah. And then the last thing, in my view, would be allowing the coach to help the process of warming up, cooling down, writing movement mobility work for you, and then giving you pacing plans. And I think this is something that we've done so well over the last decade at Training Think Tank, is giving athletes all of those processes or systems so that they can do it themselves. Maybe you're 2,000 miles away from us, but you can watch our YouTube videos where here's how you need to warm up, especially when it's like the pistol workout from last year. Like, you need to make sure that you warm up really well for this. So here are some systems to warm up that well. Here are some things to think about when you talk about pacing, because the tendency is, again, we watch these high-level athletes go and you see them crush it. And it's like, no, you don't need to do that. Maybe there are some other options. So we will break it down. If you are a bubble athlete, this is what you should do. If you are already a quarterfinal athlete, this is what you should do, and so on and so forth. And then we give cool down and movement mobility options for that recovery that you talked about on Friday PM or Saturday.
Yeah. I think the really big quality and value add that we bring to that is our ability to be able to scale it across whatever the spectrum of athlete might be. So we work with enough elite athletes to know what's a good score, how should they be approaching this, where can this fit inside of their training week. But we also work with enough other people to be able to say, this is a good target that we think that is good for a bubble, open, a quarterfinal level athlete. And this is the pace that you need to hold. This is the amount of time for each round. You give them as much detail as possible.
You'll have a good sample size because there's 12 of us now, and y'all all talk to each other. So y'all all have however many athletes.
And we've been through it year after year after year, and we kind of know, like, all right, this kind of athlete, this kind of workout, this is about what they should expect to do. But even given that, you give that person as much information as possible for them to be able to visualize it in their head, because that's what they need. Yeah. If I've got an AMRAP 12 minutes and I can hit my first round in 60 seconds, but really my pace by the end is going to be 2 minutes per round, maybe don't start there. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our first round at 85 to 90 seconds. We're going to try and sustain that and stay away from that 2-minute round. Yeah. So you try and meet that person where they're at, and I think that the experience set that we have and the information that we put out on Thursday night, Friday morning, it tries to meet as many people as possible with where they're at.
For sure. And not only the coaches, but we have so many athletes we work with. We see scores soon. Yeah. So Beyond the Whiteboard's great for that. I think we've talked about that before. Like
I love their reports.
Is maybe that Saturday at some point?
A Saturday afternoon, I think, is they'll start putting numbers out about top 10% on this workout based off of the scores that they have. And it gives you a little bit more information. Like, all right, this is a bad but maybe like an suboptimal set of movements for you inside of this workout. We don't really want you to be at top 5% for this one because we know that you got a home run coming, but we need you to be close to that 10% number. So we're going to probably have to plan for a redo on this one based off of the preliminary numbers that Beyond the Whiteboard put out.
They have, it's a huge group of athletes that are posting,
and they're always really close. By the end of by Monday when it wraps, their numbers are always really close. The numbers that go out on Saturday.
The benefit for us too is that we have all these different athletes both in our online program and our individual clients, and so we can actually even in quarterfinals kind of figure out like what's a games level athlete doing, what's a semifinal level athlete. So we can do that internally as well and communicate that with our athletes, which is a huge benefit of having so many coaches and so many great athletes on all like the full spectrum of the all the way through the bell curve. Because again, high level athletes versus those that are just starting CrossFit. Yeah. So Adam coaches one of the best female athletes in the world, and I figured this is an interesting place to kind of finish the conversation. We've been talking about top 10% and making sure that you can get in and optimizing the week. What about for the athlete like Alexis, who she's probably not thinking about the open the same way as those athletes, but they still like that. This time of year matters a ton because she needs to get ready for quarterfinals and then she needs to get ready for semifinals, which it all like the season is so long, but it happens fast. Yeah. Like the day is long and the year is fast kind of thing. Yeah. So what are you doing with a high level athlete like Alexis?
Yeah. I think what we do is we just try and decide where the placeholder for the open workout is going to be but we are still prioritizing other things at that point.
Sure.
So we know that she's going to get through the Open. Now, they released the rule book that says that the Open scores are going to go into their strength of field calculation and all that. I don't think that it's going to be in even these high-level athletes' interest to really be focusing too much on that, because I think the problem is going to be for any elite athlete who she went to Rogue, she just competed on a team at Wadapalooza. If she comes and turns around in 4 weeks and tries to put everything she has in an open workout 3 weeks in a row, thinking about strength of field, it's a huge mistake for her season as a whole. So when we think about trying to lay out what things are going to look like, Open, quarterfinals, semifinals, the Open is just one piece of her training week. And in terms of the priority, it's probably below what some of the strength progressions, some of the endurance progressions that we're going to have in there.
Yeah.
What that means is if I look at a training week, I think about training priorities and where I want them to lie. Most of the time, it's going to come after a rest day. I have 2 or 3 priorities. I want it to be on a Monday and a Friday because I know that we're resting on Sunday and Thursday. For a different athlete, the priority might be the Open workout. That's why we put them on Mondays and Fridays. Not only just the release of the workouts, but just after a rest day, you're usually the best. For her, those placeholders might be, all right, you got to hit your deadlift strength progressions on Friday morning. You got to be able to run and do pulling progressions on legless rope climbs Friday afternoon. You're going to have some CrossFit style workout on Saturday morning. Guess what? It's going to be the Open, but I don't really care what it is, because after that, you're going to go and do your ring muscle ups and handstand walks. So the style of the workout, whatever the release is, I'm kind of indifferent to for her for the most part. If there's a ton of volume on deadlifts and burpees, for example, I might change something afterwards on Saturday for her, but that's about it. Other than that, like, I'm trying to make sure that her training priorities stay the focus and the foundation of that training week. Where the Open, all right, I'm going to put it in here, this piece right here. The priorities around that are probably more important for her training week. And then after that, we're just going to roll into it.
Yeah, so that's like a major difference between the person that has to focus on the Open. That is priority number one, whereas for Alexis or other high-level games athletes, the priority is making sure that they're optimized for the games. But people in between that, they still need to be careful, because I think some people just automatically think that, oh, the Open's going to be easy and then I'm going to just crush quarterfinals and kind of move on. But now with the new schedule for, or the new setup, there's only 60 athletes, let's say in North America East, that get in. Those athletes that are on the bubble of quarterfinals, they probably need to structure their week even different compared to what Alexis is doing. Would that be the case?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they still need to be able to put the focus into each one of those Open workouts. But if they think that they're going to be right on the bubble to advance from quarterfinals to semifinals, their job during the Open is to start to get used to what that process of an online qualifier feels like, to make the most out of that and to try and optimize that. So if I'm thinking about the training week for any of the other females that we have who are that sort of bubble quarterfinals, semifinal level, we need to put everything we've got into that, not with the idea of trying to optimize the Open score, but getting you ready for what it feels like to do a tester during the quarterfinals, which for them, maybe, so I think the quarterfinal schedule was big release on Thursday. You can hit some on Friday, hit some on Saturday, hit some on Sunday. That's how I'm going to start to structure their training week, is like, all right, we're going to walk in, we're going to hit this Open test on Friday. We're going to hit a different quarterfinal style test on Friday afternoon. And then Saturday, guess what? Another hard tester, because that's what your quarterfinal is going to look like. And you've got to get used to that. We're still getting an Open score out of that. And I'm still wanting a lot of intent out of it, because I want them to get used to sort of the style of the test and the intensity and the judging and all of the chaos that goes into it. But I'm kind of indifferent to the score, and I'm more interested in them getting better as a result of having gone through that workout with the intensity that's required.
It's practicing competing. That's what they're doing.
That's what they're getting out of that.
And as a side note, this is our entire organization. We write what we'll call like a simulation of quarterfinals on week 2 of the Open. And we do that with the intention that people are getting used to what it feels like to compete, because you're going to do that in a few weeks after. And just like any other sport, like if you're not practicing the speed and the chaos and the pressure of actually doing it, it's really hard the first time. So you need to go out there and kind of feel that pressure, and we'll simulate that on site and make it feel like all that, as much pressure as we can give them. We'll give them no reps. We'll set up standards and all of that. And the same thing with our online programs. We'll have that mock simulation on week 2, but it's only for those that know that they're getting into quarterfinals, right? It's not the athletes we were talking about before. They need to just focus on the Open.
We talked about that in the prior podcast in terms of the self-awareness that comes into knowing what level athlete you are. If you get ahead of yourself, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice by looking too far ahead and not really focusing on what you should be focusing on, which is probably the Open, right? If I think that I'm preparing for quarterfinals, but I'm sitting at like 10.5% inside of the Open leaderboard, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. I should be focusing my energy where it's going to have the most return on investment.
So I think it does come all the way back to the athlete, and you need to know what type of athlete you are, where you're at on the leaderboard. And if you have a coach, they can help you with that process. Or if you're in any online program, look at the leaderboard and get a feel for where you're at. Now there's some skew, because most people that are competing in an online program are probably a little bit better than most other athletes. But you can still see the leaderboard, know what things you need to work on, and then again communicate with a coach, find someone that you trust, and allow them to kind of help you with that process.
You'll see some trends and you'll see some comparisons, and you'll know where you're short and you'll know where you're better, and so then you'll have a better feel when you actually see that initial beyond the whiteboards leaderboard come out on Saturday. All right, I think I'm about where I should be for this style of test. This is setting up well. Maybe I can start to shift my training focus a little bit more towards quarterfinals now.
Yeah. Last time we talked about what movements you think would come out. Give me what workout you think. Will there be a retest? Maybe did we ask Max or Adam that? Will there be a retest? I can't remember. Do you think there'll be a retest this year, or all new workouts from Bosman? And then what if you were writing a workout that will look like what Bosman writes? Give me just one example of that for the Open.
Oh, interesting. I think that
like a cover band, but for CrossFit.
Yeah. Oh man.
Hold on. What's that band I make fun of? It's not even a cover band. That was the wrong thing. But who's that band I make fun of for just fucking being Led Zeppelin, but now
Greta Van
Fleet. Yeah. These dudes were just like, hey, they're not doing it anymore. Let's just pick up and write Zeppelin songs.
Unapologetically, are just like the 2000 version of Led Zeppelin.
Like legit, if I showed that to someone who died during this,
they came back to life.
And came back to life, and I was like, yo, Zeppelin's got some new tunes. They wouldn't be like, nah. They'd be like, oh, word.
It's ridiculous. Have you listened to that?
No. So Greta Van Fleet.
You could make a playlist of Zeppelin and Greta Van Fleet songs and just be like, put it
the
on the background and just not know the difference.
Oh, well, good for them. That
to the
must be
layperson,
good.
at least.
That's me. I'm a layperson.
Yeah, I wouldn't know the difference.
All right, so Greta Van Fleet, Bosman workout.
Yes.
I do think that there's going to be a redo. I do think there's going to be a redo.
Yeah.
I know that he has a different taste and a different style of workouts, but I think that he's CrossFit down to his bones, and I think that he knows like this is the Open. We're gonna redo something.
What would it be?
I think it should be 20.1. I think it should be the ground to overhead and the burpees.
Oh man,
that's just the grossest.
Yeah,
grossest
you guys did
test.
that as a variation of that as a throwdown for those that have followed the program.
Yeah, I think it'll be that one. So after the games, we sat down and we were trying to think about different gymnastics variations that could go into a online qualifier, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the Open or quarterfinals or age group semifinals, whatever else it might be. I think bar pullovers would be an interesting one, mostly because all gyms already have the equipment. It's a relatively easy movement to be able to judge in terms of start range and end range, right? So when you think about a pull-up or you think about a bar muscle-up, it's very unlikely that you're going to have people like sort of skirting the line between what's a good rep and what's a bad rep, right? With a bar pullover, if you start at extension to the bottom and you get to extension at the top, it's just very clean. They posted videos on...
What's a bar pullover?
It's you're dead hanging from a bar, and then your feet go up in front, and you pull your body up and around.
Okay. Yeah,
so it's like a bar muscle up.
A little flip-de-doo.
You end up at the top, but you flipped your way up to get there.
Like the reverse way of that.
They on CrossFit.com, they posted a demo of them doing it in a general class, and everybody inside of that class was doing pullovers. There was like only 1 or 2 scales, and so I think...
Get your medical ready, everybody.
Well, that was the one thing I think about is like, what if someone drops off the bar?
Yeah,
but I guess that's the risk with anything.
People drop off the bar with pull-ups.
That's
right. And toes to bar. Like if you go to failure and your grip's done, like you're going to fall on your butt. But yeah, I was thinking that'd be interesting mostly for judging standards, because that's what I think about with new movements is like, okay, kettlebell snatch, I get it. But what's the difference between me locking out a kettlebell snatch at 5 degrees off of vertical versus all the way vertical?
Sure.
They played that game at regionals, and that was a shit show, right? So they've got kettlebells in there, but just like they did with the age group stuff, I think it's going to be like carries or something, or step overs, where the range of motion is very easy to judge. I think about things that the standards are going to be as clean as possible, because that's always my bias. What can we do online to make it very easy to judge and very easy to say that's a good rep, that's a bad rep? Because otherwise I think you're just making a nightmare for yourself. That's why I think about something like a bar pullover. Like it's just so easy. That person either got it to lock out at the top or they didn't.
Yeah. All right. So you talked about the notes, the chords, something like that. You can talk about all that music stuff, Chris, but you didn't give me an actual song. Like tell me what he's gonna write.
I told you, I said 20.1 was my redo.
No, that's a redo.
No, now you gotta.
Now you have to make up a workout.
Oh, okay.
That would have been a cover. Now we need Greta Van Fleet.
AMRAP 12 minutes of 3 burpee bar pullovers.
Oh my God.
You got to do a burpee at the bottom of each, and then you got to flip over the bar. 6, let's see, dumbbell. I was going to say snatches, but probably not snatches. It'd probably be like 12 snatches, and then some single unders, unbroken single unders. So AMRAP 12 minutes, 3 burpee bar pullovers. Let's do 12 alternating dumbbell snatches, and then let's do 24 jump ropes single unders, but they have to be unbroken.
Brandon, let's hang on to this. And if well, this probably won't come out during the Open, but let's hang on to this and let's make this a future throwdown. What do you say?
Yeah, we will have to give pullovers to everyone.
It's like, let's not do that.
I actually would love to see something like that.
Leave a comment. Do you want this as a future throwdown?
The pullover is tough for the average gym goer.
Well, they'll have to scale it.
Yeah.
What would the scale be?
For a pullover?
Yeah.
Jumping pull-up.
Okay, so burpee,
jumping pull-up.
chin over bar.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that. Chris, do you have one?
Everyone's good now.
Do you have one? Have one that you'd want to see?
No. Whatever. 12.1.
I'm just a media guy.
Oh, you got to do it now too. I don't hang me out there to dry.
Yeah, I would think that it's going to be like, it would be carries, kettlebell carries or dumbbell carries.
I mean, the inclusion of the kettlebells I love, because most gyms do have kettlebells. They're saving the heavier ones for quarterfinals, so it's going to be something light, 16 or 24 kilos. Anything that takes that kettlebell overhead, the lockout is just so varied, right? Like it's just so varied, and it's just hard to judge.
Yeah.
And people I could just see Hiller right now having a field day with this instead of this, and then counting the number of reps, and then saying that this person didn't get through.
I hope that there's some gym out there who's like, you know what? Like two gym owners, right? They've had their affiliate for a while. They're like, you know what, Ricky? We just haven't seen enough kettlebells in forever. Let's sell these bitches. They sell their whole thing.
No! Those aren't cheap. It's like $1 per pound, right?
Yeah. I know. They probably got some good equipment out of it.
Rogue is making their money back.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
They've done such a good job for themselves.
I was going to say, not like they ever lost their money.
No, most of these big universities now use Rogue to outfit their gyms as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of the football teams
like
have
the
Rogue
power racks,
and it looks awesome. I mean, Rogue does such a good job.
Yeah.
They have their separate power racks too, with platforms and just high quality equipment. So
all right, so your workout has kettlebells.
Oh yeah, sorry. What was yours? 12-minute AMRAP.
12-minute AMRAP.
Okay, let's go. 12-minute AMRAP. How about this? 12-minute AMRAP of 12
plagiarizer
double kettlebell 2-bar pullover. No, I'm just kidding. 12 kettlebell deadlifts.
Okay.
50-foot carry.
Yeah.
12 chest to bar pull-ups. 50-foot carry.
Oh God, it's so grippy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Okay, that's where you need your medical.
Oh man. Yeah, your person's more likely to fall off the bar than my person.
Yeah. Or rhabdo in the forearms.
What we should have done is we should have set up the training week off of these hypothetical workouts.
Oh my gosh.
Because your person is, all right, you go to the hospital for Saturday and Sunday because you have no blood flow in your hands.
Speaking of training week, we are going to do another episode about setting up your training week for quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Once we get a little closer to that.
We'll talk about things to think about for a mock simulation and then how to prep for that week. I think most people, it's really easy to mess up the week after week 3 of the Open, and then the kind of that down week before you go into the week of quarterfinals. So how can you optimize that for your athletes, both high-level athletes that are trying to get into semifinals and just the athlete that they make it and maybe, they just squeezed in, but they still want to do well in quarterfinals. So just making sure that they're ready for the events.
I feel like that's what we should do is right before our quarterfinal simulation is we release it and then we say, here's best practices for quarterfinal.
Yeah.
I had one more hypothetical question before we wrap up. Adam, so Alexis is, you mentioned her plan and how it's going to be different and how you view it. Now, if she's sitting in second place,
like she was last year
on Monday, and she wants to redo it, what's your thoughts? What do you tell her? She's trying to get that 2,223. What is it?
It's 2023
$2,023.
By the way,
wait. We're talking about the Open, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the best scheme that CrossFit has ever had because they get to just go up by $1 each year. That doesn't even cover inflation, y'all. I mean, think about it. Oh, so last year 2022, now 2023.
Yeah.
Next, they never have to spend any money.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, all right. So we're talking Open week 1. She did her workout. It's submitted on the leaderboard. But
No. We're talking she could win the Open.
Yeah.
She's in second place.
Wait, win the Open or win a week?
Win
the Open. She's won. She's first.
Do you win the money for each week, or do you win it for winning the Open? Maybe I'm confused on that.
Yeah,
I thought it was for winning the Open.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
I thought you got something for winning a workout.
Oh,
let's just say that it is to win the Open
because I feel like she could win a workout.
Okay,
let's
go.
But I feel like she would have
to
prioritize the whole Open from week 1 all the way to week 3 to win the whole thing.
Well, no, but let's say she just ended up. We're right there. Okay. We got 6 hours before the deadline, and you look, and she's in second. What do you do? Do you let her do it again?
Yeah.
If she's asking, you're not telling her to do it.
No.
But if she comes to you and is like, I want to do this,
if she comes and says that she wants to do it, then I know that she's probably going to be pretty fired up to actually do it.
Exactly.
Because the last thing you would want is to go and redo it and like compromise the rest of your training week and then not actually fucking do it. But like usually if she gets fired up about something, it's probably going to happen.
She's going to crush it. Yeah. I mean, to win the Open now, though, you really do have to, like, you have to prioritize that. And it just wouldn't be a good practice for her.
If it's the overall thing, it's like, it's unlikely because we're not really caring.
Do you think they should
those.
increase the prize purse for winning the Open?
That was my whole point.
Is that cool enough?
Well, he was saying the $1 thing, but I was like,
no, I'm saying, is it worthy enough to have a big prize?
We had talked before about them trying to get the elites to put more value into the Open, right? Like, so they're making it worth something in terms of adjusting the strength of field calculation. Yeah. If you upped the prize money, maybe it's more likely that these people are going to put more into the Open, which makes it more of a showcase for you and your product. So maybe there's value there. I don't know.
I mean, they definitely could. So how much is it to register for the
$200K.
$20. Let's say they get 350,000 people that sign up. They have enough money there to raise
hit
the
up
prize
the
pool.
Dubai Championship people. Maybe they throw in an extra 30K randomly.
Yep.
Remember that workout where right beforehand,
like right on the floor, he's just like, all right, another 30,000. Whoever wins this, like, what?
And Travis came really close to beating Frazier on that.
Yeah.
Oh, what a bummer.
That would have been nice.
What a bummer.
All right. Well, thanks, Adam.